I'll kick it off then. Susan, welcome to what we're calling Tuesday Night Book Club, and you're the fourth iteration of it, first female, and as a result we have certainly a much better mix on the Zoom tonight, which is great, so thanks for doing that. Delighted to have you along. And just before you start, I did want to call out, you summed this up really well in one of your tweets, that the kind of two key ideas behind it. One, people don't have to have read the book beforehand, which is a kind of a flip on a normal book club, which is great, and that's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to tonight, because I haven't read the book. And the second one then is it's an open Q&A. I presume we'll wait till towards the end, Susan, unless you're comfortable people jumping in with questions during it, but it's interactive, and I'm sure if anyone has read this book on the call tonight, they can share some of their learnings from it, what's been important or impactful to them as well. So that kind of creates a little bit of dialogue or trialogue or whatever number a log there is here, and that should, that's really well put, Susan. So that's going to help us kind of drive the message and build the community, and it's great to see so many new faces and new names here tonight. So now, Susan, I think you've been waiting long enough to get started. I'm going to start talking and you can take it away.
Lovely. Well, thanks, Rob. And I guess for me, I'm delighted to be here. It is a book that I'm very passionate about, and I guess I reached out to you, Rob, about coming on your book club because I love the concept, and I just think, there's so many books out there that we have to we've been advised to read, and it's hard to read everything. So joining a very friendly, interactive book club is just a great concept. I did say in my tweet lots of times about joining the conversations, and the book this evening, The Atomic Habits, it's a very popular book. So if people have read it, please feel free to join in. But there is 4 key laws that he talks about. So I'm quite happy to go through, give an overview of the book, and then maybe we can talk about it afterwards. So, but whatever suits people, I'm really easy. This is the book for anyone who hasn't seen it. And I was just saying that I first read this last year on a beach in Thailand, and it kept me gripped. And I guess I'm a very simple person, and one of the reasons why I loved this book is it's full of great stories. It's full of great anecdotes of why he is suggesting something. At the end of each chapter, there's a summary. So, sometimes, especially when you're on a beach, you might have Zoom read something. He has the summary there to remind you of it. So all of that, I just really loved this book. And I loved even the tagline, up there, tiny changes, remarkable results. And I guess I am somebody that thinks I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow. But actually, I've just realized I can't even walk the 26 miles, not mine run. So how do you break down that marathon into easy steps is what I really wanted to learn, and about creating that habits. And this book has helped me do that. So he says that every action that you take is actually a vote for the type of person you want to become. And I think that is really very reflective of who we are. So all of our habits is about the type of person we want to be. And if we change our habits, we can change our life. And so I guess, the first thing to think about is what is a habit? And he describes it, and for me, a habit is something that you do every day without even thinking about it. It's like tying your shoelaces. So if you can remember when we had to learn to tie our shoelaces, maybe just before we went to school or just when we were in school at the age of 5, and now we bend down, we tie our shoelaces, and we don't even think about it. So that's what a habit is. It's something that we do automatically with no energy, no thinking. And the concept is that if we just improve 1% every day, 1% of a slight tweak, a slight change in something that we want to do, that will have a compound effect. And over time, that will create into a new habit being made for us. And again, I love that concept. And, as a leadership coach, we talk to people about behavioral change. And when you talk to someone about changing their behavior, they often think oh, I have to go from 0 to 100% overnight. But this concept is that, no, you don't have to do that. What you do is you just break it down bite size. You do 1% every single day, and over time, that compound effect will have a change in you. So I really liked that. There's 4 laws that James Clear talks about in making a good habit. And make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And I'm going to go through each of those laws with you. So even if you haven't read the book, hopefully you can take something away with you this evening on how you can implement a new habit today if you want to. Now, he also talks about changing bad habits. And I guess considering I have no bad habits, that part of the book didn't resonate very well with me. But I do get his concept, right? But I was more looking at reading it about how to change or how to make new habits. But again, he has 4 laws about changing a bad habit, and they are kind of like the opposite to the making a good habit, which is make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. But this evening, I'm not really going to talk about that because I'm sure, like everyone else, we don't have any bad habits. So, law 1, if you can remember what it was, make it obvious. And he has a lovely turn of phrase in making it obvious called implementation intention. So what he's suggesting that as well is that he has a formula, and like we all should love a good formula. So the formula is name the behavior, name when you're going to do it, and name what time you're going to do it. And so, for example, he says that if you want to read a book, if you want to read 30 books in a year, right? He suggests that what you do is you put your book on your bed every morning after you've made your bed on your pillowcase, so that when you get into bed in nighttime, you read 1 page. So what you're saying there is, I will read my book 1 page every evening before I go to sleep. And you have it ready there and then to do that. So what he's saying is that most people think that they need motivation to make a good habit. But actually, it's not motivation that you need. It's a good plan. So, for example, the other example that makes this very simple is if you want to take up meditation. And like, let's think about this. We all think that we should be taking up meditation. Meditation is good for us. We all know that it relaxes us and everything. But how do we get started? So he suggests that you use the formula and you suggest, I'm going to do 1 minute of meditation every morning at 7 a.m. in the kitchen. So you have your behavior, you have your day and a place, and you have your time. So you have a plan and you have a formula. He also then talks about, stacking your habits, right? So when he refers to stacking habits, he's referring to how you create a new habit on top of an existing habit. So a habit that you already have. So most of us would get up in the morning, we go down into the kitchen and we reach for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, whatever we're going to drink first. He's suggesting that we create our new habit onto our existing habit. So, for example, if we take the meditation, I am going to meditate for 1 minute every morning at 7 a.m. in the kitchen after I've drank my cup of coffee. So therefore, it makes it easier for us to think about when we're going to do our new habit because we're stacking it with our existing habit. He then also, talks about how can you make it easier in our environment, right? So, and again, I think this is really very, very simple concept that we all know is there, but we just never put it into a book to think about it, right? So, for example, he gives the example of if you want to learn the guitar, well, then put the guitar in the front room where you sit down to watch your TV. So again, every day you put in I want to play 10 minutes of the guitar every single day at 7 p.m. before I turn on the TV. So rather than having to go and search for the guitar, rather than going having to look at it, have the guitar just there ready for you so that it's easy to do. Something that I did in my own life is I wanted to become more aware of eating fruit. And I'm not sure about everyone here, but I keep my fruit in the fridge. And so often when I walk into the kitchen looking for something to eat, the fruit, I don't see it, but I do see maybe the packet of biscuits, or I see something else, or I open up the fridge door, and because the fruit is in the drawer, again, it gets missed. So now, since reading James Clear, I have a fruit bowl and I keep the fruit on top of the microwave. So every time you walk into the kitchen, you see the fruit. And again, that is around creating your environment to make it easier for you to implement your good habits. He does spend a little bit of time, if you're thinking about habits and what are your habits and how do you identify your habits. Again, this isn't an exercise I really did, but if you wanted to do, you can go onto his website, atomichabits.com / what's it called now again? Scorecard. And you can download it and you can write down, he has a template that you can write down all of your habits that you do every single day. So it's like, I get up in the morning, I have my shower, I clean my teeth, I go downstairs, I have my breakfast. So all of those habits to make you aware of the habits. And I guess that's part of the law of one, what are the habits that you're doing every day without even thinking about it. And then he suggests that you can either put a plus sign alongside that habit or a minus sign or an equal sign, depending on where your habit is. And again, it's not about judgment, right? Because this book and his concept, it is about being kind to ourselves. It's not about beating ourselves up about what are the bad habits we have, but it's about making us aware of the habits that we're doing. And again, I think that's really cool, isn't it? Because we all do so many habits that we're not even aware of. Something very simple is the biscuits that you might have right after dinner, like with your cup of tea. Certainly that's something that my afternoon coffee, I love the piece of chocolate with it, So it's those kind of habits that you want to break and become aware of. So the second thing that he talks about, so firstly, we've the first law, as I mentioned, was make it obvious. The second one is make it attractive. And he refers to a guy in the book, and I'd love to know if this is a true story, but it's in the book, so I assume it is, who is an engineering student from Dublin. And he says that this gentleman, Ronan Bryan was his name, wanted to improve his fitness level, but he also liked watching Netflix. So I don't know, for anyone who's read the book, we can certainly discuss whether this is a true story or not. But he says that this engineering student created a bike that he had to pedal at a certain speed for the Netflix to work. And so therefore, he watched the Netflix while pedaling. I get I get what he's talking about there, and it's a good story, but whether it's true or not, I'm not sure. But he is talking about building your habits on making it attractive. So and the psychology behind that was devised by a guy called Professor David Premack, and it's known as the Premack principle. And again, it's about doing something attractive after you've done something that maybe you didn't really want to do, but it's good for yourself. So, I kind of struggled with this one to think of examples for myself, but I do know certainly, I can get lost in Instagram. So, it's about making sure that I do something that I don't want to do before I go onto the Instagram app and lose half an hour of my very safe life scrolling through fashion things that I really shouldn't be looking at. It's that kind of thing. How do you implement your new habit that maybe you don't really want to do, but it's good for you, based on something that you enjoy, something that you make it attractive. The third law is about making it easy. And I guess this is where the 1% comes into. And he claims that every new habit can be broken into a 2-minute rule. And I think this is where the magic is as well, right? So again, thinking about the running the marathon, how do you break that into a 2-minute rule? So he talks about this gentleman who wanted to become fit. He wanted to lose some weight. He wanted maybe to run the marathon, and he needed to develop the habit of going to the gym 3 times a week. So he didn't really enjoy the gym. It wasn't for him. He didn't have any habit of joining the gym. So for 6 weeks, his habit was just to go to the gym for 5 minutes a day. So he didn't have to go into the gym and do a workout. All he had to do was drive to the gym, park up, change his clothes, go into the gym, stay there, do something for 5 minutes, turn around and walk out again. And the purpose of that is making the habit. And it's quite cool, really, if you think about it. It's about making it very, very simple. Again, thinking about lots of people say, I want to read more, but I don't have time. Or I want to, something that I would probably do is say, I want a lofty goal and I want to read a book a month. You see people on LinkedIn there, or maybe Rob yourself, saying, this is the book that I've read this month. But how do you create that habit of reading? And again, he gives the suggestion of just breaking that into, I'm going to read 1 page a day. And then gradually, you'll build that up. But it's about getting into the habit of reading. So that was the third law, make it easy. And he talks about that, people put all of their energy into the finishing line. So like that, for example, running the marathon, reading the book, etc. He said, but actually, what is the energy needs to go into, and it's so true, is just getting started. So then the law 4 that he talks about is how to make the new habit satisfying. Again, in our modern life, in our modern way, what we want to do really is instant gratification. And often we don't get that with our new habits. And if you think about it, it makes so much sense. So if you decide that you want to start eating more healthily, you're not going to see the benefit of eating fish 4 times a week overnight. It's a long time thing. It's a long time health gain for your heart and for your well-being. But in order to keep us, and the word motivated comes to mind, but I know that James Clear wouldn't like that word. But I suppose the more of making that habit of eating healthily become a habit, it's about instant gratification. So again, here's this great idea, which I think is fabulous, where you print off a wall plan and you put it up in the wall plan and you tick the day that you did your habit, and you tick it every single day that you do it. And he refers to that as a habit tracker. And he says that our modern psychic loves the gratification of being able to tick that we did this new habit. And he refers to the comedian, what's his name now again? Oh yeah, Jerry Seinfeld, who decided, you might have seen this in his documentation, his autobiography, he wanted to write 15 minutes a day new jokes, whether he felt like it or he didn't feel like it, whether the jokes were good or whether the jokes were bad. This is what he wanted to do. And so in able to keep that motivation up, in order to keep that habit, forming that habit, he came up with this habit stacking. And basically, as I said, you put the wall chart and you tick it every time you do it. So they're the 4 laws of how to create a new habit. But the other great thing that I really resonated with me that I think is good for you just to take away is he has this thing called never miss twice. And he talks about how do you form a new habit? So people say to him, like, does it take 21 days to form a new habit? Does it take 30 days? Does it take 60 days? And his philosophy is that he understands why that question is being asked. Certainly, people want to know how long will it be until this habit becomes very easy for me and I don't need to think about it, which is great. But he says the moment you stop, that's also a new habit. And his answer is never miss twice. And this is something that I've really taken on board, right? In anything that I'm trying to do that's new. So if you're on a healthy diet and you've ate very, very well for 9 days and you've done really, really well, but on the 10th day, you go out, you have the blowout, you have the pizza, you have the drinks, you have the great laughs with the friends, and it's all good, that's fine. That's okay. But the following day, go back to eating clean, eating healthy, and eating well. And therefore, 1 is an accident, but 2 days is a habit. So never miss twice. And that really is it now. That is Atomic Habits summed up in about 20 minutes.
Brilliant. 20 minutes exactly as well, Susan. I think that was well summarised.
I'd love to know what people think and who else has read it, and did they take the same out of the book that I took out of the book, and how they've implemented the ideas into their life.
I haven't read it, Susan, but that like makes it sound so easy, like, isn't it? And it's kind of that nudge we all need in terms of all these things we know are good for us that we don't actually implement. But it's a framework actually just to be able to nudge us towards these healthy habits. So, as you said, like a bit of fruit in the kitchen, or the pair of runners by your bedside, or the book on your pillow, that kind of stuff. It's all these kind of different nudges that can kind of just help us with these habits, really, because I think without some sort of a framework, it's too easy to kind of slip into the old ways of kind of being lazy,
Yeah, absolutely.
You enjoyed it, so thanks.
Yeah, Susan, I've read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and I suppose what struck me there when you were talking about this particular book is it seems to have a much catchier kind of summary framework, probably much more memorable. Rob, I don't know if anyone else has read The Power of Habit in comparison, but or maybe it's just the way that you summarise it, but it definitely kind of seems stickier in terms of remembering the steps, which we all know is important when we're trying to form new habits. It's just kind of keeping them front of mind. It's gas because I actually have the guitar in my office next to my desk, so that when I want to take a break from work, the guitar is there. But anyway, I moved the fruit in front of the bread bin because, like it was inside in the bottom drawer, but I put it in front of the bread bin, and it's working wonders. Yeah. So I think it's definitely seems more appealing. I don't know, has anyone else read The Power of Habit? Yeah.
I read it, and I read the one. I read that Duhigg one, and the one straight after is called Smarter, Better, Faster, and it's more about productivity. But Duhigg's, like, he's a New York Times journalist, so he'd have a lot more. I guess Claire isn't probably a journalist, right? He's just kind of somebody that came out with this and is much more into the structure. He probably was an engineer, I'd say. Claire had probably background in that, but Duhigg was steeped in kind of stories and science. And the one thing that struck me was different between the two. Duhigg talks about a habit loop, and there's a cue, a reward, and there's a craving. So, like, for a habit to become a habit, you need to have this kind of craving that you get from the anticipation of actually doing the routine. You get a kind of a craving from that. Did he mention anything around kind of like cravings in the book, or that what was that thing that would make you do it every day?
I think he refers to that as satisfying.
Yeah, in The Power of Habit, he talks about craving.
In The Power Habit to do, yeah, but I just, so like satisfying is probably, like, as you were saying those 4 rules, I was looking, kind of mapping it in my head to Duhigg stuff, and there's kind of a lot of parallels. The two of them books came out, probably, I think Duhigg might have come out beforehand, but there's definitely kind of parallels between them.
Yeah, so I just opened the notes I had for Power of Habits, and when Susan was talking, I just, mapped it with this, and they align a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just have the book here, sorry, and the first law, make it obvious, he also has in brackets Q. So he does refer to that as well.
Okay.
Sorry, Declan.
That's cool.
Oh, there's a very kind of a similar track to this thing called nudge theory as well. So it's in behavioral economics about how we influence people. And like nudge theory is something like if you put healthy snacks up next to the cash register in shops, you're going to influence more healthy eating habits, that kind of stuff. So again, there's a kind of a similar track there, I think.
That's why they put the fruit on the way into the supermarket, so that you buy the fruit first. Because you go in thinking, right, I'm going to buy fruit because I'm going to be healthy, and then put the chocolate towards the end because like you've bought the fruit, so you're now allowed to buy the chocolate. So
works every time.
That's why the wine in it is an Aldi as well.
You used to put the bread at the door. Do you remember that? And you'd walk past the Super Quinn and you'd smell the fresh bread and you had to go in.
Yeah. We're being tricked left, right and centre, I think.
It's the ultimate nudge, isn't it? Fresh bread, you're hungry whether you're hungry or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Susan, on your habits that you've kind of started to develop as on the back of it here, was there any that have you found easier than others? Is there any that you just couldn't crack?
Oh yeah, that's an interesting question now. I am someone who gets motivated by the end result rather than just starting, and I think so that's something that is key to me to breaking it down, Like I would be someone who says, I think I should run a marathon, but the fact that I can't run is a major problem. So certainly breaking it down. The other thing, I guess, just talking about the walking stroke, running stroke, going to the gym, never miss twice, I think is really cool, because some weeks, for various reasons, you just don't go to the gym, or you don't do the walking, running that you should be doing. But rather than just letting it go and all of a sudden you're 3 or 4 weeks over it, never miss twice has really stuck to me as well. And I love the fact, and I suppose I do in my own practice talk a lot about, like, just break it down to the 2-minute rule, because we can all do something for 2 minutes, and make it simple. I think that we as human beings, and certainly at the moment, we're always trying to overachieve, and then we get overwhelmed. I mean, how many times do we meet people where we're overwhelmed with what we have to do? But if you just take a step back and break it down into the 2-minute rule, you will start to get through something. You'll start to form a habit that makes it easier then to develop a new behavior that is good for you, or that you want to do, because he talks about your habits define you. So I think I think that, Rob, is thinking about the starting line rather than the goal is something that stood to me.
Like the brilliance of the 2-minute piece is that the likelihood of you just doing it for 2 minutes probably is very low. Once you actually start, you might give it 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So it's just getting over, as you said, getting over the start line probably takes a minute, and then you just you have a bit of momentum. So I think that's pretty cool to stick with.
Susan, I know you didn't go into the negative habit side of things, but was there anything on that part of the book that stood out to you, like kind of without going through the 4 steps or anything like that? But was there any little nuggets in there that you picked out?
I think the biggest thing, Niamh, is awareness. And I like, for me, I suppose there's a lot of things that creep into my life that are probably not healthy, things that I don't want to do that have just become part of the norm. Again, talking about the social media, like I could lose half an hour on Instagram and LinkedIn and all of the others without even realizing it. So I definitely, that is something that I have taken away in terms of just being more aware of the automatic habits that I do that I don't think about. And then I guess, it's all about, once you have that awareness, you can change it. And you can stop doing it once you have the awareness, but it's making yourself aware of the habits.
Does he talk about any breaking habits around social media? People spending too much time on that, and that instant buzz you might get from getting a tweet, but then you spend half an hour on it and you feel pretty shitty about wasting your time on that, looking at everything else that's not really making you feel good about things. Does he mention that at all?
Like, he does and he doesn't, Rob. He talks about putting the phone in the other room. I saw a video on him once, or an interview, and he says that his assistant changes his passwords every Monday morning and doesn't give it to him then again until Friday evening. So it's just that kind of thing that he talks about around social media. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that he does talk about is that I'm not sure what year it was, 2018, I think, November 2018, he decided that he wanted to start writing blogs, and he didn't write any blogs at all. And so he decided again that he was going to write a blog every Monday and every Thursday. And it didn't matter whether he thought it was a good blog, a long blog, a meaningful blog, whatever. He was just going to write it and he was going to post it. Mm-hmm. And so, back to the first rule, right? Every Monday, every Thursday, and when he was going to do it and how he was going to post it. And then he talks a little bit then about the status. So just about the social media, I think that's when he talks about social media, in that he wasn't allowed to look at the social media till he had the blogs done. So that's why he was allowed to get it back on the Friday once the 2 blogs were done. Mm-hmm. That's really all, I think. But he demonstrates that he now, I don't know what the figures are, but he started off after 3 months having 100 followers. Now, after 2 years, he has 400,000 followers. And he talks about it's just a consistent habit that he does now every week without even thinking about it. He writes his blogs every Monday and Thursday. Again, it's a very powerful concept. It's so simple.
Mm.
One of the things that I pulled from my notes, because I read it a few months ago, but I just pulled up my notes as you were talking, Susan, was a quote that he says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." Mm. So it's just all around creating those systems, as Dec said, that makes it easy for us to do the right thing, like reach for that piece of fruit, and then makes it hard for us to do the wrong thing, which is spend that half an hour on social media. But it's actually not necessarily about the habits and our behaviors. It is, obviously, but it's more about us creating a system that makes it easier for us, so we're not relying on willpower, which is depleted.
Exactly, yeah. That's such a great point, Sarah, yeah.
It's what you said at the start, the plan part, right? It's all about planning and putting the structures in place and then staying within it. Somebody was going to say something.
Rob, I was going to say a recommendation on the smartphone thing with social media, How to Break Up With Your Phone by Catherine Price. I picked it up in Waterstones, and it's brilliant, jam-packed, really good, full of all the tips and tricks you need to know, and I would probably go on your phone, but it's good. It's a good read,
Next week's book club there, Rob.
Yeah, off you go now. Great.
Are you nominating yourself there, Niamh, for that?
No, I'm sorry. I started talking and I was like, maybe we could talk less on these things. But no, seriously, it's a good book. Yeah.
We'll have you as a backup there.
Too late.
Sarah's made a really good point there about the systems, and he does say that about not relying on willpower. Again, I think somebody mentioned that about have your training shoes if you're going to go for the run at the end of the bed, so you automatically put them on you. If you're going to go for exercise, if you're going to do your exercises when you come in from work, have your habit that you just change into your exercising clothes. That they're just there. So you're removing the distraction, and you're relying less on willpower and more on the system, as Sarah said.
So
I also loved when he talked about the 1% improvements, which we were all very familiar with, that concept of marginal gains. But I love where he talked about the 1% disimprovements as well, because that really kind of inspired me. Like today, I don't go for my walk, not a big deal. But if I look at it from a lens of over time, what that might mean, that actually could be very negative for my health. So I just found that concept quite inspiring as well.
Mm. Yeah, they don't
absolutely.
talk much about the kind of negative side of that, all right, yeah.
Mm.
That's something I found useful from engaging with these book clubs, is actually trying to take a key learning from it and maybe trying to implement it over the next 2 weeks. So that's definitely something for me anyway, coming off the back of this book club, is actually to actually have a look at the systems that actually I have in play, to consciously look at, are they actually enabling me or are they blocking me? So that's something I'm going to take from this. Like, so Susan, that's going to be my focus for the next 2 weeks anyway.
Great. Well, Declan, if you want an accountability partner, you can email me and tell me how you're getting on. Your systems.
Yeah. I'll undertake to give up my Candy Crush habit.
You can join the Slack group and start telling us on a daily basis how you did. People can hold you account there as well.
Oh, that's a good idea.
The never miss twice thing, Susan. I remember I interviewed Johnny Holland, the rugby player, here a few years ago, just after he retired. I played with Munster, and he was saying that was one of his mantras when he was a goal kicker, and if he ever missed one, his mantra was, that's okay, not to pile the pressure on, not miss the second one. And it's an interesting sports kind of psychology view as well. I don't know if you had heard that one before, Dec, at all, no?
Yeah, I have, yeah. That's it's sort of a one to keep you on track, to allow a mistake, but to follow up a mistake with something very, very basic that you know you're going to be successful at, so that there's not 2 mistakes in a row. But the point that Sarah made as well about the systems, that seems to be a huge one in the sports sphere, to be honest, is that some people think that you can just rise to the occasion and that you up your game on the day, but actually when the pressure comes on, you do sink to that level of preparation and sink to the level of your system. So again, there's a lot of interweaving between life and sport and business in all these books.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Would that be, Declan, from the sports area, would that be like muscle memory? You want to get that built in?
Exactly. So when you come under pressure, that thinking brain actually comes under pressure, that default. So actually, you're relying on that very primal instinctual piece. And if you're primed at a lower level than what's necessary, you just won't be able to perform. So that's exactly it, John. It's being able to prime yourself to cope with those pressure scenarios.
I always liken it to driving. You know, how much of if somebody pulls out in front of you, you actually have to think about the mechanics of what your feet are doing and your hands are doing. You're not going to respond in time. So it's making as much of the mechanics automatic as you possibly can, so that you have time to use your thinking brain to do the rest.
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest pieces of research around choking. So that actually, when you become consciously aware of what you're doing, that's actually when you know you're not working off that automatic autopilot, and you can't get into that flow, and that's when your performance starts to suffer.
Yeah.
I remember a few years ago reading about someone analyzed Michael Schumacher's performance, and he wasn't. They kind of went through this list, and they said he's not the fastest, and he's not the quickest, and they kind of put against all the benchmarks, but they reckon he had thinking capacity. He had more thinking capacity than the average driver. He could do so much on instinct, and then the rest of his capacity was available for strategy and tactics and the next move and so on. So
I think that comes down. I was reading statistics. 60% of everything we do supposedly is a habit, and that's because our brain, being a lazy organ, wants to try and create as many habits as possible so that we have enough energy for the non-habit based type activities, like those sort of reactions, so that you can control it as well. So it's interesting that some people he might have just habitized, made habitual more and more things, that the non-habit things, he has more capacity to deal with them then. So,
but in terms of our day-to-day lives and changing our behaviors on a bigger scale outside of one individual type of task or skill, it's you also get this kind of decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Because the more active decisions that you have to make, the less you're actually composed and ready and have the energy to make the decisions that actually matter. So, again, it's the more of it you can make automatic, the less decision fatigue you're going to have. Mm-hmm. It's like having a uniform for work, even if you don't wear a uniform.
Yeah.
It's funny, Maura, you mentioned that, because since I started working full-time remotely, I used to always do a few days in the office. I've had the same work outfit now since I've been 22, no joke. Pencil dress, cardigan, court shoes from Clark's. Got it down. I was all over the place. I realised my entire wardrobe was my work wardrobe. Threw me complete for a loop for the first couple of weeks because decision fatigue. But but I was also listening to a podcast only recently about that, and kind of by passing things from the conscious into the subconscious, we're relying less then on willpower, which is obviously a limited resource anyway. And the more, Susan, to your point, that we can kind of make things a habit and habitual, the less energy and brain resources going to take for us to do them, and then frees us up to do it. So that whole decision fatigue more makes plays into that massively as well. I've started wearing pencil dresses at home, to be honest with you, when I go to work. It's still my work outfit, even in the office upstairs.
Well, it probably reduces your chocolate habit as well if you're going to continue to fit into a pencil skirt every day.
I made myself wear jeans through the whole thing, because otherwise I was like, I'm going to balloon. Yeah, anyway.
I have the same problem with the pencil skirts myself, actually. Like, they're struggling into this one at the moment.
I bet you didn't expect this when the group got mixed. Well,
this is what we needed. This is what we were missing, I think. So it's going to explode after this. Did somebody say hashtag pencil skirt there? No? Okay, that'll draw people in. No, this is great, though. I think this is what it's all about, right? Just getting these ideas out, and, it's all about the book, and that's what kind of brings these up, and everybody shares ideas, and saves us. We're ripping James Clare off of a few new purchases of the book, though. He probably is not too happy about that.
Rob, sorry, Susan, when you mentioned at the start the 1% improvements, was that your interpretation of the book, or was that his idea, the 1%? Because I know
it's his idea.
And is that where you got it, Rob, or was it before that?
You missed the start. So, like, for nearly as long as I've been doing the podcast, it was probably in the first year or so, James Clare kind of exploded shortly afterwards, but I had never heard of the guy. So, total independent, similar thought process. But again, like, neither of us were the first person to ever come up with the idea of getting 1% better. That's kind of been around a long time. It's just different interpretations and stuff. So, as I said earlier, he stole the idea. I have a lawsuit pending at the moment. But no, random
court case pending.
Yeah, exactly. So, John, just for funniness, we have another John O'Sullivan on here as well, right? So, just the week John was presenting on this, I kept tagging the other John on Twitter, thinking they were the same person for a while, but then we figured out there's two of them now, and they're kind of on top of each other there. So, welcome along to the second John.
Thanks very much. I've even put in my Twitter John G. O'Sullivan there, so you don't get confused.
Yeah, it helped definitely. Like, and you're a prolific reader as well, John. I think you're also somebody that tweets sometimes. You're on book 60 or 70 of the year or something crazy.
I cheat a bit. I do a lot of audiobooks when I run, and I don't watch a lot of TV. But I've actually read both Charles Duhigg's book and Atomic Habits. I actually listened to Atomic Habits first on audiobook, and then actually liked it so much I went out and bought it. I think thought it was excellent, got a lot out of it. Actually, funnily enough, Susan didn't mention it, but I got mentioned it, sorry, but didn't go into it, but I got quite a bit out of it in terms of breaking bad habits, especially in where you make good habits easy, to make it easy concept, and with the bad habits, then you make it difficult. So, and I did the same thing with the biscuits and the fruit, but just, it's hard now with 3 kids at home, but just stop for a while, stop buying biscuits at all. So if I really wanted a biscuit, I had to go out to the shop and buy one, and it actually worked really well. And then when they started to reintroduce them into the house, that kind of craving and habit kind of stuck with me, because I was a fright for a cup of tea and having to have chocolate or having to have a biscuit with it.
And
you won't be wearing the pencil skirt, so John, no?
No. Maybe another couple of months now, lockdown and running, we might be able to get there.
Which of the 2 books did you prefer, John? So one,
I found James Clear book. James Clear, I think someone said it sticks with you a bit more. I think I found Dewey's book a bit dense. Probably the wrong word for it, but I think James Clear's background. I think actually his background was baseball. He's a minor league baseball player,
right,
but a lot of injuries. And I think he came up with the concept when he was recovering from a serious injury when he was a kid, or that's what he traced back to. But I found it a very easy read, and an awful lot of it stuck. It's got like these little nuggets that do stick with you. So I found it positive. That was kind of what stuck for me. Still, it's not a book you have to read twice because it sticks with you.
Interesting.
And I could see why you would feel the need to buy the book after even listening to it, because there is exercises that he helps you to do as you're going along that I didn't really go into there now. But again, if you go onto atomichabits.com /, he has the templates that you can download yourself and work your way through it. So I do kind of think I could see why you would the need to buy the book afterwards,
I found it good, like a good listen, but to actually implement anything, it didn't work as an audiobook in that respect. So you're right.
Yeah.
Has anybody on his email?
Yeah.
He sends out is it weekly or
weekly? Well, it's supposed to be bi-weekly, every Monday and Thursday.
It's actually really, really good. I know I'm sure some of you are the same, but I'm signed up to so many things. I find myself always reading what he sends. He structures it really well, in a 3-2-1 type of idea thing, and I just find it really interesting. So
I like it as well. It's does anybody follow James Smith PT on Instagram? He started just as a PT in a gym, hourly paid PT. And he's built up an incredible online coaching academy, and he's well worth following. He talks an awful lot of sense, but he tells stories about celebrating getting 10,000 followers on Instagram with having this enormous party and going out and thinking this was absolutely brilliant, and he's now on 500,000. And he says he celebrated, getting another 10,000 on his 500,000 exactly the same way as he celebrated the first 10,000, because it's still 10,000 people. Mm-hmm. The fact that he already has 500,000 doesn't make any difference. It's still 10,000 more people that are reading his emails and paying attention to what he says and changing their habits and so on. It's almost like he's living the James Clear thing, breaking it down into tiny little bits. It's very readable. It's very accessible. It's very catchy what he's saying. He has the same gift for making a pattern within the writing that he's giving you, that it's easy. Our brains recognize the 3-2-1, and our brains recognize the kind of stuff that really, really good functional writers bring to the table when they're giving us interesting things. You don't have to read a sentence twice. You don't have to read a chapter twice. You don't have to read the book twice. You remember what they're saying.
I love that. I love when it's made simple.
It doesn't even have to be that the language is simple. It's just it's well planned, so that you're not struggling to read it and having to read things 3 or 4 times to understand what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not easy to make it that simple either, you know. That's the hard part.
No, but it's a nice example of him practicing what he preaches, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the way he has it written actually follows the 4 rules, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah. Very good. So, yeah, anything else, guys? Anything to wrap it up? Any last comments, Susan? How was your experience? Did it, live up to all your expectations?
It did. Thank you very much, Rob. It was great. I hope everyone got something out of it and felt that they can go away and start a new habit this week for the next 2 weeks, like Declan, without having to go away and read the book.
Yeah, no, it was great. Thank you.
That was great, Susan.
Really
Thank
nice
you.
summary.
Yeah, thanks.
Well done, Susan. And do we have any hands up for the next book club 2 weeks' time? Anyone want to submit their name? Anything of interest coming up?
I thought Niamh already did.
You know what now? What I'm
Seconded.
I'll check my calendar, no joke. Is that the 21st, is it?
2 weeks, yeah, 21st.
Now, I won't do that session because my boyfriend's on nights, so if the baby wakes, I'll be skipping the review. But I'll commit to doing the one after. There you go. So you've got
whatever that date is, the first week of July. Perfect. We lock you in on that one.
Right, lock me in, but I won't do it in 2 weeks because knowing our luck.
Yeah, no bother. Well, look, if anyone has an idea, ping me and send me an email over the next few days. I normally start kind of advertising it the next week, and we'll put this one out probably in the next couple of days, Susan. So far it's kind of weird, and there's no real editing involved in these. It's just going straight out. It saves me a lot of time.
It's going out? Jesus, Rob, I would have stayed.
Of course, it always goes out.
It's audio, Rob. It's audio only.
Audio only, Niamh. Don't worry. We're not putting video.
No pencil skirt.
No.
Off the cameras if we thought it was video.
There's a couple of hundred people listening to this at the moment, which is more than, that's pretty good. So tell people about it and, come along again in a couple of weeks. Thanks to all of you that are newbies. Welcome. And again, thanks, Susan. And sure, look, we'll catch up in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me, Rob and Declan. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Good evening, guys. Bye-bye.